Hey there nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and welcome to another episode of Necromunda Hired Guns, your ultimate guide to the gritty Underhive of Games Workshop's Necromunda. In this series, we dive deep into the fascinating world of hanger-ons, brutes, and hired guns, so whether you're a seasoned gang leader or just stepping into the dark corridors of Hive Primus for the very first time, our in-depth analysis will help you master these valuable allies as well as assets. And because this video will be a little more of a deeper dive, I will put timestamps in the description box down below, so that way you can click and navigate to the part of the video that interests you the most. So in today's video, we are focusing on the House Goliath specific hanger-ons in the form of the Brute Handler, the Pit Trainer, as well as the Zerker. We'll talk about their characteristics, their skills, their war gear, as well as their special rules, and provide our overall thoughts on how to best utilize these hanger-ons, brutes, and hired guns in your games of Necromunda. So that being said, let's go ahead and get this video on a roll. The Brute Handler. Brutes are typically savage and dull-witted, herded into battle by gangs to increase their firepower and intimidate their enemies. Even those brutes with the sense to listen to the leader's commands in combat still need guidance and training, and Goliath brute handlers are ex-pit fighters or factotum overseers and know how to get the most out of muscle. Alright, so let's go ahead and start off with the Brute Handler. Now for Goliath gangs, these hanger-ons actually cost 55 credits a piece, whereas any other gang want to recruit one for themselves, they cost 110 credits. So starting off with the characteristics, they got a 4 wound allowance, as well as 4+ weapon skill, 5+ ballistic skill, 3 strength and 4 toughness, 1 wound, 4 initiative, 1 attack. They have 7 leadership, 6 cool, 8 willpower, as well as 8 intelligence. Now that 4+ toughness, of course, this could be quite nice because it means your enemies will be pretty much winning you on a 5+ in most cases, so that's quite nice. Not to mention that 6+ cool and that 4+ weapon skill are actually quite good as well, but you know, nothing too spectacular to speak of. Now when it comes to their skills, they do have Iron Jaw, which means that your fighter earns a +2 to their toughness when they get attacked by a close combat weapon with a -AP, which isn't very much, but there are a lot of weapons out there that doesn't have armor piercing, especially for close combat attacks. So if you're lucky, your enemies will be striking at you at toughness 6, so it'll be much more difficult for them to wound you. At the same time, you're also armed with a shock whip, which is quite nice, which gives you a 3-inch versatile attack range, and you'll be striking at strength 4 with 1 damage, and shock is a pretty nice little buff in case you manage to roll a 6, so that part is kind of nice. However though, you don't get any armor save whatsoever, and that part is not that great. Now when it comes to the special rules for this character, this person does have the part of the crew, which basically is usually good in most cases because that means your hanger-on can join you in the battle, but in this case, not so much in my opinion. And the reason why is because the Brute Handler only has 1 wound with no armor save, so the moment this guy takes any damage whatsoever, chances are you could lose this hanger-on, especially because as the rule states, if one of your hanger-ons suffers a lasting injury, they immediately leave your service, and at 110 credits for gangs or House Goliath, that is quite pricey. Now another special rule of this, which is quite good for these guys, is called the Training Special Rule. And it reads that if you're active within 3 inches of a brute, the brute gains Nerves of Steel, so that way they can escape getting pinned by passing a cool test, and most brutes have some really good cool tests. At the same time, you can also reroll Leadership, Cool, Willpower, as well as Intelligence tests, which are also quite nice as well. In addition, any brutes not in recovery can retrain between each battle. The brute must fail a willpower test to gain plus D3 experience points. And if it's passed, the brute is too willful and the training doesn't work. Now, most brutes have a pretty not so great willpower score, so you should be able to get that pretty well for yourself and be able to enhance your experience gain for your brutes, which is quite nice as well. This is a great way to build XP for brutes. However, this ability does give the Nerves of Steel, which is quite good, plus that reroll for the supplemental stats is also quite nice too. However, it is a bit of a double-edged sword because this only works really if you're on the tabletop with the brute, and the brute handler themselves is not a really great combatant, so that's the problem you might run into. So I would actually take the brute handler just for that XP gain, but as for like being on the tabletop, not so much. Now, there are some really cool game mechanics if you're using brutes on the battlefield, so if you got a lot of brutes in your gang, this would be a great way for them to build up their experience points, at the same time also give them a little bit of buff on the tabletop. And because it only costs 55 credits for Goliath gangs, it's a pretty good discount for that, but it's pretty pricey at 110 credits for other gangs, so it might be something you want to take into consideration. Not to mention, there is an official miniature for this fighter in the Forge world, so if you are playing in a campaign which requires WYSIWYG rules, where you actually have to field the actual official model for you to be able to be allowed in a campaign, it could be a little bit of a bother just because Forge world miniatures are hard to get, so that is something you might want to take into consideration. Otherwise, if you're not really worried about that too much, you can 3D print, proxy, kit bash, or convert your own, which is what I would recommend. The Pit Trainer. Pit fighters are rightly feared for their close combat abilities, and the best ones trains constantly under pit trainers to improve their skills. Goliath gangs favor pit trainers over more conventional trainers as they have focus on melee combat and vicious takedowns, usually in the bloodiest way possible for the enjoyment of the crowds. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the Pit Trainer real quick. So the Pit Trainer costs 75 credits, and they are a House Goliath exclusive, which means only House Goliath fighters gangs can actually take this hanger-on. Now for the characteristics, they got a 5-inch wind allowance, a 3+ weapon skill, a 4+ ballistic skill, 3 strength and toughness, 1 wound, 3+ initiative. They have 2 attacks, they got 7+ leadership, 5+ cool, 8+ willpower, as well as 7+ intelligence. So the characteristics are actually quite good. I would say on par for most Ganger level fighters. That +3 weapon skill as well as 2 attacks is quite nice. Saying that 5+ cool is also really good too. When it comes to their skills, they do have the mentor skill, which means that they take a leadership test on a 7+, they can give 1 additional experience point to one of their fighters that earns experience, which is a nice little bonus that you can add for your gang as well. But you know, the idea though is when you're really going to deploy this fighter, it's not really going to happen very much often. So because that wouldn't really rely too much on the mentor skill. Now when it comes to the war gear, they do have chainsword as well as a fighting knife, which are quite good. I mean, they're cool weapons. The chainsword gives you a +1 to hit, at the same time gives you parry as well. The fighting knife gives you the backstab trait, which is quite nice. So, you know, it gives you additional attack in close combat, so nothing game breaking. But what's really nice about these guys though is you get the combat ready skill. And basically with this special rule is you can train up to 3 fighters and you gain a random skill from their primary or secondary skills. And you roll a d6 for each fighter training, and if you roll a 1, they actually suffer a lasting injury on the injury table. So that's something you do have to worry about on that one. However though, if you're really looking for a way to add some skills to your fighters, this could be a really good way to do so, especially if you're playing House Goliath and putting on a lot of primary skills on your fighters could be a really good way for you to kind of balance and actually kind of overpower your enemies as well. So that part is quite nice. The only problem though is that it is random, so you don't really get to choose what your primary skill is when you actually roll it. So that part is quite sad. And 75 credits is a lot of points in order to sink into a hanger-on, so that might be something you might want to take in consideration if you plan on taking these guys. But like I said before, if you're just playing by the rule of cool though, by all means take them. I mean, you can always experiment to see exactly how effective this fighter is for you. And the nice thing about the Pit Fighter is that, the Pit Trainer is that there is no official miniature for it, so you can make your own. You can proxy, you can 3D print, you can kit bash, you can convert your own, whatever you want to do in order to represent this fighter. So, the Zerker. The members of House Goliath are notorious for their gene enhancing and biomanipulation of their physical forms to monstrous levels. Many Goliath infants are vat grown, the better to ensure a healthy specimen, while others are born of Goliath parents deemed suitable to reproduce for their adherence to the Goliath physical ideal. Whatever the infant's origin, from an early age, House Goliath utilizes all manner of artificial assistance to boost its members' abilities to superhuman levels, be it through the use of combat stims or other, more esoteric drugs brokered through the dealings with House Escher, or the genetic manipulation of their young, up to and including the surgical grafting of huge volumes of extra muscle mass. There's almost no limit to which the members of House Goliath will go to in their pursuit of what they deem to be physical ideal. Indeed, this manipulation of their form has gone on for so many centuries that there are those within the Ministerium, as well as Adeptus Mechanicus, who believe that many of House Goliath have evolved to become a distinct subset of abhuman unique to Necromunda. This is quite alarming, considering that gene enhancement and vat-grown muscle grafting is common across the Imperium and speaks volumes about the levels to which House Goliath has taken these practices. Such abuse of growth stims, surgeries, and other methods is not without risks, however, as even the most baseline of Goliaths will show noticeable reductions in cognitive function. For Goliaths that push to the limits of their physical form to the extreme, the risks are even greater. Rampant and uncontrollable muscle growth, spontaneous bone spur mutations, metabolisms that rage out of control, and total loss of all higher brain functions are common. Such post-human flesh hulks are frequently seen in the gangs of the Underhive, where in the crude parlance of the gangs they are called Zerkers, bringing rampant destruction to the foes of their house. Alright, so let's talk about the Zerker, which is the House Goliath specific and unique brute that they can hire for your gangs. You can recruit one of these guys, and they cost 210 credits on base. Now when it comes to the characteristics, they got a 4-inch wind allowance, 3+ weapon skill, 6+ ballistic skill, 6 strength, 5 toughness, 3 wounds, 5+ initiative, 3 attacks. They have 7 leadership, 6 cool, 8 willpower, as well as 10 intelligence. Now with their characteristics, that +3 weapon skill, Strength 6, Toughness 5, 3 wounds and 3 attacks is quite good. It makes this guy into a close combat wrecking machine. And having that 6+ cool is also quite nice as well. Now the rest of the mental stats, however, are horrible, with a 10+ intelligence, 8+ willpower, 7+ leadership is alright. Now it does automatically come with the Impetuous skill, which means that whenever they do a consolidation move, they actually move up 4 inches instead of 2 inches, which could be quite useful because it gets you within range to attack your enemies as well. Now when it comes to their war gear, they actually start off with 2 open fists as best, which at start, which gives you a pair trait, which gives you strength 6 -1 AP as well as 1 damage with knockback, which is quite good as well. Now you could of course optimize your Zerker by spending 70 credits to purchase mutated fists and bone spurs, and this is actually the way to go because it gives you a strength 7 attack with -2 AP with 2 damage and a 2-inch versatile trait. And it also gives you the pulverize as well as a knockback special weapon traits as well, which makes this an instant buy because that way you could also strike your opponents up to 9 inches away. You roll a 6 on your charge distance, that puts you at 7 inches. You got a 2-inch play with that versatile trait for those bone spurs. You're striking at targets which are 9 inches away, which is quite nice as well. Plus that -2 AP with the knockback just cannot be understated as well. Now you can of course purchase Furnace Plates for 10 credits, which I would suggest you do because Toughness 5 is great, but having a little bit of a backup armor save is quite nice. And you can also spend another 20 credits in order to purchase a Stim Slug stash, which would, if you decide to take, will give your fighter movement 6, strength 8, and toughness 7, which is really, really cool. The only problem though, of course, if you roll a 1, you suffer an injury roll, so that's something you do have to worry about. But when you combine this with combat drugs and with mutated fists with bone spurs, what that means is that you get 5 to 8 attacks on the charge, striking a strength 9 with -2 AP, 2 damage with knockback, with pulverize, as well as a 2-inch versatile trait. That thing is going to make you into a meat blender, so this guy is going to be absolutely fantastic in close combat. Plus, not to mention, you also get the combat drug stash, and when you activate, you either get D3 attacks, which could be insane if you manage to get that, so getting additional attacks could just make you just absolutely dangerous, so that's something you could take into consideration as well. Now, granted, if you decide to purchase a fully upgraded Zerker, it's going to cost 310 credits when fully upgraded, so it's a huge sync point, but you know, what do you care about the cost, right? This thing is absolutely death on feet. It's like the mountain that rides from Game of Thrones. This guy is an absolute beast. Best way to purchase a Zerker, in my opinion, for your gang is to wait during the down phase of a campaign. Save yourself up some 60 credits. Do the down phase, you'll get 250 credits to make your purchase. Buy yourself a Zerker and start dominating the second half of your campaign as well. Now, when it comes to the Zerker, there is an official miniature, so that part is quite sad. Not to mention the face on that official miniature looks goofy as all get out. I don't really care for that look, so you do have to worry about that. Just in case you play in a campaign where they want you to use official miniatures, it could be a bit of an issue. However, though, I say proxy, kit bash, convert, or 3D print your own because, like I said before, the Zerker from Games Workshop's Forge World has like that goofy looking face. I just can't take it seriously, so that might be something you want to take in consideration. So there you guys have it. We're now done talking about the Brute Handler, as well as the Pit Trainer, as well as the Zerker, which are the House Goliath specific hanger-ons for your games. Like I said before, these are some really cool miniatures with some really awesome rules. Some of these miniatures look really, really cool, like the official ones, like the Brute Handler, for example. The Zerker, not so much. But like I always say before, it's always a tactical choice when it goes to choosing a hanger-on or a Brute for your gang or a hired gun. In my opinion, you should always go with whatever seems cool to you at the moment you're doing it, because you're just going to be there playing for fun anyways, so you might as well just try out things and see how it works out for you. Now, like I said before, WYSIWYG can be a bit of a bane, and in case you're not sure what WYSIWYG stands for, it's an acronym for what you see is what you get, which means that some campaigns and some gaming groups require to use official miniatures for that, so that could be a bit of an issue because some of these are Forge World exclusive miniatures, but otherwise though, if your campaign doesn't really care, like I always say, 3D print, convert, kit bash, or proxy your own. You could probably make a really cool miniature for like pennies on the dollar and save yourself some money at the same time, because that's what it's all about on this channel. So that's good with you guys. If you guys have any suggestions of some other Brutes, hanger-ons, or hired guns that you would like to see, please put it down in the comment box down below. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. You guys' input is valuable to us as always. I am Commander Cheapskate. I will catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.